All right, I'm going to call to order the regular governing board meeting at 7:05. Let the record show all board members are present with the exception of President Paperman. Can I get everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Have a seat. Okay, can I get a motion to adopt the agenda?
Madam President, I need to make an amendment to the agenda.
Put in the motion.
Okay. I move that the governing board amend the agenda to table old business items 4B, 4D to the next scheduled board meeting.
Can I get a second?
Yeah, we're going to have the agenda as printed minus your motion, right?
Correct.
Okay. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Where's that coming from?
You can finish the
Vote and then we'll find
Might be
it.
in your drawers.
Check your drawers.
Watch, check here. Is there a
That
watch
didn't
in
sound
there?
very good.
Timer going off? What do you think? Think you found it? Sounds like it's coming from down there. Eventually.
Okay, everybody pretend they don't hear that sound. Okay, let's move on to action item. Approve recommendation for the principal of Deer Valley High School. Mr. Carver, can I get a motion?
I move that the governing board accept the administration's recommendation for the principal of Deer Valley High School.
Second.
Did you say Paul Carver?
I will do the intro.
I think he said Paul Ross Kelly.
Oh, okay. I thought it's,
Pretty
we
sure.
gotta say a name in the motion though.
Pretty sure you made the motion to accept the administration's recommendation for Paul Ross Kelly
Kelly.
for Deer Valley High School. Right? Second.
Correct.
We corrected it.
All right.
Okay.
Just want to introduce Paul Raskelli. He is a 22-year administrative veteran and has been at Deer Valley High School the last 9 years under another leader, kind of as a co-principal. And that's kind of why we chose him today. He worked in tandem with Ms. Crooks, another great leader in our system. He comes with obviously experience, leadership potential, and is looking forward to lead Deer Valley High School. He went through the process and not unscathed. We ran him through the ringer pretty good, and he came out on the other side, did really well. So he's the administration's recommendation for the principal of Deer Valley High School.
I will say he is very well loved, and there are some cheerleaders that have been going, just praying it would be you, even without knowing anything.
Isn't this time for his 10-minute speech?
Yeah, we got to vote first. So can I get a vote? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Mr. Ross Kelly, you want to say some words, introduce your family, meet your other family that you already know?
Oh, perfect. Well, first of all, I want to show my appreciation to my family for coming out. And there's no way. Sorry. And I mean both my Ross Kelly family and my Deer Valley family. We are a family, and I wouldn't necessarily call myself a co-principal over the last 9 years, but maybe a co-parent over the last 9 years. So I do appreciate it greatly when I see the numbers and then the texts of those that weren't able to make it, but wish they would be able to, and wish me good luck and congratulations. But I I love Deer Valley, and you can't believe how ecstatic I am at the opportunity to take on this role of building leadership capacity at Deer Valley High School and providing an opportunity for Deer Valley students to excel both through the remainder of their high school years, but into whatever avenue they choose to take. We want to give them the skills and the knowledge necessary to be successful in those avenues, whether they be college or career. We want to make sure that they have those behaviors, knowledge, and skills that'll support them into any choice they choose. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Again.
You can take the crew with you. Unless they want to stay for the meeting. We'll give you a couple minutes to exit.
All right, let's move on. There is no call to the public, so we're going to go past that. Old business. Mr. Carver, can I get a motion for 4A?
I move that the governing board accept the administration's recommendation to Deer Valley Education Foundation Memorandum of Understanding for 2023-24.
Second.
And I think we've already seen this, and Lord knows we have such a blessing. Does anybody have any questions or?
Just
Other
want
than
Marie to
how much
stand
we
up, so
love her.
I just want Marie to be acknowledged and clap for her one more time. Because I know she loves the limelight.
Okay, we'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
There's no opposed. Mhm. We all say aye. I think we all say aye. Which ones did you move off all the policies? Okay. You good? Okay. We're going to move on to 4E, approve proposal for the FY24 expenditure budget to advertise. Mr. Michelino.
Oh, do we want
Oh.
to make a motion?
Yeah, sorry. Paul, can you go ahead and make a motion?
I move that the governing board accept the administration's recommendation to approve the advertising of the FY24 proposed expenditure budget.
Second.
Vice President Fisher, members of the board, Dr. Finch. The presentation has not changed from the preview that we offered to you 2 weeks ago. So at the pleasure of the board, I can go through the information once again, or if there's no desire for that, I would certainly understand. We did include the gold book in what we call the budget book in the backup this time, so it has the detail for all of the staffing for each of the school locations and that. But unless you guys want me to go through the presentation, which I'd be happy to do.
Is this in relationship to what we can advertise, correct?
Correct. So we preview it, which is not required, and nothing has changed since 2 weeks ago to today. This gives us the ability to actually approve the proposed budget, which was what we previewed, and then we would bring back. In fact, I think we have a slide in here pretty early on. The adopted budget back at the July 11th meeting for it to be formally adopted by the board. There will be some publications that are made that does not include the truth and taxation notice for this year, because again, we did not elect for any adjacent ways funding in this budget. So it will include the publication of the actual budget summary so that people will have notice of that. We will have a hearing prior to the July 11th meeting for people to comment about the budget, and then it will be formally considered by the board on the 11th, pending the outcome of the vote tonight for the proposal.
So to clarify, we are approving to advertise, not the budget.
Vice President Fisher, that's correct. It is a formal process. We are going to require your signature on the cover page, but it is noted as the proposed budget. It is not the formal adoption of the budget. It's just to advertise it so that we can formally consider it on the July 11th meeting.
Any other questions? Nope. Yeah, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Nay. Okay, Mr. Carver, can you go ahead and move on to 4F?
I move that turn on the mic. I move that the governing board accept the Deer Valley Unified School District's fiscal year 22 financial audit and compliance questionnaire completed by CWDL by roll call vote.
Second?
Okay, does anybody have questions on the questionnaires? We received all this? No? Nope. Okay. Then I call for a roll call vote. Ms. Ordway,
Aye.
Ms. Simichek,
Aye.
Mr. Carver,
Aye.
Ms. Fisher, aye. Okay, can I get a motion for the consent agenda?
I move that the governing board approve the consent agenda items 5A through 5R.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And those opposed? Did you vote? Okay, it's 4-0. Let's move on to action item 6A.
I move that the governing board approve all employee professional development out of state per governing board policy GCCE.
Second?
Any questions? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Should be 4-0. Can I get a motion for action item 6B?
I move that the governing board accept the administration's recommendation to pre-approve the addenda as presented.
Second?
Any questions? Seeing none, I call for the vote.
Aye.
I'm waiting for one of you guys to go, aye, 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 aye. It still hasn't popped up. Sorry. Just making noise till it comes up. Thank you. All right. We're going to move on to the preview 7. 912 CTE curriculum, resource materials, adoption and recommendation. Dr. Galligan?
Vice President Fisher, members of the board, Dr. Finch. Tonight, Debbie Kidwell, our CTE curriculum specialist, and I will present the recommendations from the CTE Adoption Committee for 11 career and technical education programs.
Good evening, Dr. Finch, President Fisher, and thank you for having CTE here this evening to present our proposal for career and technical education curriculum adoption. As you can see on the screen, we have over 21 programs in career and technical education. However, tonight we're bringing forth 11 programs for our 7-year curriculum adoption. We would like to reference, as you look up here, that over 3,900 students will be served as a result of this curriculum adoption. We start with accounting at Sandra Day O'Connor, culinary arts at Barry Goldwater, early childhood education, both at Boulder Creek High School as well as Sandra Day O'Connor. We have graphic design at 5 of the high schools, film and TV at 4 of the high schools, finance at Boulder Creek High School, Interior Design at Sandra Day O'Connor, Introduction to Health Professions at Deer Valley High School, Law Enforcement and Public Safety at Barry Goldwater, Marketing at Aspire, as well as Barry Goldwater, Boulder Creek, Deer Valley, and Mountain Ridge, and Sports Medicine at Barry Goldwater, Deer Valley, and Sandra Day O'Connor. So we have some rationale for requesting this curriculum adoption. First of all and foremost, the new standards that have been implemented through the Arizona Department of Education in conjunction with the CTE Quality Commission have commenced since 2017-18 in the last adoption. 8 of the programs that we present tonight have new standards. In addition to that, we, in year 2 of all of the programs, have required state testing called a technical skills assessment. The curriculum that we use and the resources that support the students allow them to complete that testing successfully, exceeding the benchmarks and staying competitive within the state and within the industry that they test for. A third significant factor is that we have external evaluations that are held by both WestMec as well as ADE. We have a 3-year cycle for WestMec. We call it a TQI evaluation. They rotate through our various high schools and evaluate all of the curriculum as well as other resources and performance measures that are required. And then once every 5 years, ADE comes in and does what we call a monitoring visit, and they look even more comprehensively at the compliance factors required for federal funding. So we bring forward these programs. We've gone through the traditional process that our other academic areas have used. We started out with committee publicity. We focused on that significantly in the months of March and April. We were successful in obtaining emails from several of our teachers and sent individual emails out to parents. Also using department coordinators, administrators, and other resources from community engagement here at DVUSD to reach out and build awareness of our committees. The result of that is on this next slide. We ended up with a diverse group of people available to serve on these committees, with 10 high school CTE teachers, 4 high school assistant principals over curriculum, 1 other administrator, 1 parent, and 1 community member. What we did from that point is we developed committee teams, and they were set up by functional study areas so that you'll see, like, for example, business had accounting, finance, and marketing together, as well as if you look over at media and communications, they have a lot of commonality in their program as they all produce various creative projects, so we grouped those people together as well too. So there were 4 committee teams that met. We followed a timeline that began with March 23rd, where we held our first meeting. In that meeting, the people that were in attendance were, by the way, the same people that attended all of the meetings through up and leading to the public review. But in that first meeting, the committee had a chance to look over the rubric, get familiar with the standards in the programs, and begin to develop a common framework for evaluating curriculum. Then we held 2 meetings the next week where we talked about the rubric that had been reviewed in the first meeting, some of the recommendations for changes and improvements, and we looked over the first set of bids and recommendations that came in from our 5 vendors. At that meeting, they made recommendations for vendor presentations, which were held on April 5th and 6th. And it was at that meeting that the people on the committees recommended the vendors that would be put out for public review April 8th through June 7th. So we were on public review for 60 days. The next step of the process was after public review, on June the 8th, we reviewed the public comment. This is an example of what was out for publicity. We were working heavily with parents to get feedback. We had some good traction from our teachers as well. At the end of the school year, they came in for work days and they were able to give us some good critical feedback about resources that were out there for adoption. You can see here that the web page that was out for Deer Valley on the Deer Valley site had some good, strong analytics. We were able to track through the community and media department some of the good information. We had over 299 page views. Some other notable analytics were that there were 251 file downloads. So people were actually clicking on the links and looking at the resources that were available. We did have those for public review through the vendor platforms as well, too. So all the input was collected, and these are some of the comments. You can see that sports medicine had some of the more lively comments, but we did get a few of the other areas as well, too. With respect to sports medicine, they had two very tight contenders for curriculum resources. McGraw-Hill was the eventual choice for several reasons. The one reason is that the individual who wrote the textbook that's supported by the McGraw-Hill platform is recognized industry-wide as one of the leading experts. In addition to that, we found that the McGraw-Hill platform was very advanced in terms of being able to differentiate instruction for students who had additional needs beyond core direct instruction from the CTE teachers. You'll see here the first set of programs and the recommended resources. We have accounting, graphic design, introduction to health professions, finance, and law enforcement and public safety through Cengage, which is now a part of National Geographic. They use a platform called MindTap, which already has a standardized setup with our Canvas LMS system, so it will be a relatively smooth transition as many of these have been used in the past. Accounting and introduction to health were previously with Cengage. What did happen was they did look at the other vendors that brought forth some resources, but ended up staying with the Cengage resources. Probably one of our biggest wins in this evaluation from Cengage was that we were able to go down from 3 texts to 1 text for graphic design with a combined publication that's also available digitally called the Adobe Design Collection. And graphic design is a very large program, so being able to go from 3 texts to 1 was for certain a win for the teachers, the students, and the fiscal implications of the adoption. On the next set of resources, you'll see McGraw-Hill. We have year 2 of early childhood. We'll go with, we would recommend would go with the McGraw-Hill resource. Sports medicine and rehabilitation, which we spoke to about before, would use McGraw-Hill. And then our largest CTE program in the district, which is now marketing with almost 900 students, they have a very comprehensive 2-year program that involves a dual enrollment aligned course through the community college for each semester, which is why there are 3 textbooks and platforms to use. But one of the big wins for the marketing program was that they really wanted to stay with just one platform to serve all the needs of those dual enrollment students and those traditional students as well, too. And then on the next page of the slide deck, you'll see Goodhart Wilcox, also known as GW Publishing. 3 programs are recommended for GW Publishing: Culinary Arts with 300 students at Barry Goldwater High School, Film and TV, which is at 4 of our high schools, and Interior Design, which is at Sandra Day O'Connor. So these are the recommended and suggestive resources from Goodhart Wilcox. And then lastly, Savas Learning Company. We are proposing 2 resources for three resources for two programs from SAVIS. As I'm sure the governing board members know, SAVIS is a distributor for Pearson, and Pearson is actually most readily available in the post-secondary world, and because of the comprehensive nature of our film and TV program, we have selected for consideration the Adobe Premiere Pro Classroom in a Book. And then early childhood education for year one will use the MyLab platform through SAVIS. Here's our professional development timeline to help our teachers speed with these new platforms. We will start with a paid professional development opportunity for those teachers that are available on July 24th, which is the day before their contract would begin. We will also, for teachers who preferred not to participate in that day, offer after-school platform training on August 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. Part of the reason we're able to do the training in this fashion is that in CTE, we have standardized curriculum that we use the first 2 weeks throughout all CTE programs, which is from TFS Career Tree Resources. And those resources allow our students to begin to develop career literacy about their program, develop an understanding of professional skills, and at the same time find a connection to the program that they're participating in from a career standpoint. We will also have additional training on September 5th, 6th, and 7th for those teachers who require additional support. And how we'll continue to measure if things are going well with the implementation is on October the 2nd, we'll send out a survey to the teachers that are part of the programs being supported by the new resources, checking in, asking for feedback on additional training, and then we have a day scheduled in November for more training as needed for those individuals.
As you can see, the 11 CTE program resources that are part of this 7-year adoption come at the bottom to $950,131.14. You can see for each of the vendors, the programs, and then the cost per vendor that includes shipping, handling, and tax. Just as a reminder, ARS Statute 15721 is right here, and this is why we bring adoption resources and recommendations to the board for consideration. We will bring the CTE adoption recommendations back on July 11th as an action item. Thank you.
Do you have any questions? Mr. Carver?
Thank you for all your hard work on that. I appreciate it. I just wanted to clarify, so when you say that these specific CTE courses touch 3,900 students, that's per year?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the committees, I see where we sent out emails to 21 specific parents for these particular committees. Is there a reason that we don't do like we do with other curriculum committees when we just put it out to the public to see who's interested to participate?
Vice President Fisher, Mr. Carver, in general, we send communication out to parents who are going to have children in our CTE programs. In general, just because many times our general population does not have an interest or does not understand, especially with CTE, career and technical education. There's a lot of misunderstanding out there about career and technical education. So we generally target the families and children who are participating or who will be participating.
Okay. And where was the review promoted? So we talked about that we put this particular, well, not that one, but the one that discussed the review time. Where was that advertised so that the community could have access?
It was advertised in a variety of places, but it was in the newsletter on May the 2nd to the parents. It was also posted on the board outside of the office, as well as through other resources on the DVUSD website.
Okay. And when these reviews were done, were there surveys that were filled out? And do we have a count on that? I must have missed it, or maybe it wasn't shared, but what was the total number of surveys returned?
Sure, we only really got 10 completed surveys back, but we do know from the Google Analytics that there were a lot of people visiting the page and looking at the resources, but not completing a form in response. But there were 10 completed forms through the DVUSD website that were recorded and reviewed in the public review session.
And one other question, I'm sorry to have so many.
That's all right.
So we discussed in one of the previous meetings how our curriculum committees will be subject to open meeting law postings and whatnot. Did this committee follow that, or was that before we had that conversation?
That was before that conversation.
All right. So moving forward, this committee would be the same as all the other curriculum committees. Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate all that. Thank you.
Ms. Simicek? Sorry. Okay, I have a few. Mine are like kind of lame. They are just. So going back to your finance, the comments, I saw the one comment about the finance content. I think where I'm confused, and I could be wrong, I've been extremely busy and have slept since then, but didn't Kimberly pass where we have to have personal finance coursework already in our schools?
There is a standard within economics that focuses on personal financial literacy. And year 2 of marketing is also aligned with providing that and satisfying those same standards.
So why are we selecting personal finance? Because personal finance is different than finance. I'm just curious because I did notice that the marketing has a finance component. So is that more of like a corporate finance in the marketing? Yes, I see a yes. Okay. And so I'm just thinking when I think about personal finance, I 100% support it. I think we need to have all these kids. They should have started their retirement accounts in 8th grade if their parents didn't start them younger. But wouldn't that fall under a different funding? Couldn't we find a different funding for that personal finance versus a CTE coursework? CTE coursework is more for careers, yes?
So the standards that align with our finance program at Boulder Creek High School are a combination of both personal finance as well as business and corporate finance. And so the instructor that leads that course at Boulder Creek evaluated the textbooks carefully. His associate or his assistant principal was also involved in the review of the materials as well to align with the standards.
And so they feel that this is adequate to do the corporate type finance for a career.
They do, and they also use supplemental resources as well that are available through the NAF Academy of Finance, which is a previously approved agreement to several of our programs in CTE.
Okay, so long as I think it's adequate, because it just is different. And I mean, I support both. I support everybody having financial literacy because I didn't grow up with it. I tried to learn it, but I mean, my parents had it, they just didn't share. And schools didn't either. So it was just kind of interesting. The other comment I have, and there's really nothing you can do about it now. I mean, the committees are what they are and who you get. I'm a little surprised that we don't see more industry individuals within these committees and showing what they're looking for. Because every event, conference, conversation I've engaged with individuals with, schools that I visited in my day job regarding CTE programs, the industry leaders always tell me that they wish the districts would give them a say so that they can truly make sure that we're turning out what they need. because they love CTE. They want those kids to be coming out really knowing the core basics of what's necessary for their careers and for the needs of the industry. So I will tell you, futuristically, I would like to see industry leaders be invited, or industry, I mean, even if it's just get it into the various industries and let them send an HR person or I guess I've been out of HR for a long time, but in the last month or two, I'm filling in for someone, and I'm just realizing how undertrained people are in some fields, and it's like, geez Louise, I just need I need a warm body that can do these basics. And I think a lot of that's the message I've heard from industry as well. So futuristically, I would just like to see more industry involved. But I do thank you for all your work. CTE is it's our past that was successful, and I believe it'll be our future that'll be successful again.
And Vice President Fisher, I do appreciate your comments a lot. I know you've joined us before. We do the industry evaluations once a year. It's a performance measure that's for funding, and we do invite industry to those sessions. I suspect that part of the reason that some partners did not participate in this process is because the requirement is that you couldn't just come to one meeting.
You have to come to them all.
Yeah, and so I feel like perhaps some of them were hesitant to commit to 6 or 8 hours of their time for the curriculum review process. But I think having industry involved is very valid for sure.
Well, if I ever go back to education, my teaching cert is in CTE. So yeah, it is a struggle, and honestly, most of the time, that's why it makes me a little leery to adopt curriculum, because I've seen curriculum sit on shelves because there's just so many resources. That stresses me a little that we're spending that, but it's actually not that much money. It's like one large machine. So, anyways, thank you very much for everything.
Thank you.
Can I ask Jamie Fitzpatrick a question? When you guys have the end of the year review with the corporations, whomever comes, do you have some kind of, I know they bring wish lists of what they want to make sure that we're concentrating on. So you use those notes when you looked at this adoption?
Beginning of the year for most of them. So we try to hold as many of the advisories in semester 1 as possible. That way the teachers can use the information and build those relationships with those business partners throughout the remainder of the year into the coming year. And yeah, we all, during that time, we share our standards, our curriculum.
Yeah, because I do remember them being very vocal about what might be lacking and what they want to see. So I appreciate you incorporating that information with your decision.
Some in person.
Okay, thanks.
Allows us to get a bigger variety of people attending those. So typically we'll get anywhere from 5 to 20 industry members attend the virtual meetings, and then we do have some that are in person by sector.
Thank you very much.
Any other comments, Bob? No. Let's go on, move on to preview item B, a governing board pro statement for M&O override election. Mr. Michelino?
Vice President Fisher, member of the board, Dr. Finch. So as you are aware, the board did approve for the 2 elections in November, one override and the other is the bond election. As part of the M&O override, it is required that the governing board present a pro statement for the publicity pamphlet, or the voter pamphlet, if you will. And so what we have provided in the board packet this evening is just a marked up version of what we used in 2019, simply as a conversation starter, so that we can work on getting the actual pro statement finalized at some point before the due date. It is due by August 11th, and they are very particular about the dates. And so I would not advise us waiting until the last minute to submit the pro statement. So we were hoping that we would start the conversation and maybe try and complete the task at our next meeting in July. So, but we do have until that August 11th deadline, just for your information. And again, we are not suggesting that the pro statement that we provided is the statement that we need to use. It is just merely what it's marked up for dates and obvious things. And just as a point of illustration, there is a comment, I think, in the third paragraph about the decades of state reductions in funding. That may or may not be appropriate because the state funding has increased of late. So I don't know if we want to highlight that in the same manner that we did back in 2019 when this was last considered. And the last comment I have is that we do have to keep the number of word count within 200 words. So, and they are also very particular about the number of words. So, for those of us that have been creative in the past and tried hyphenating words to be able to count it as one, they do not consider it one word when it's hyphenated. It's actually 2 words. So, just from past experience, I'll share with you. So, with that, I'll just be able to maybe turn it back over to the board to see if they have some comments or suggestions. We would be happy to author something that we could present that wouldn't be just a marked up version of the last time we did this exercise, but we just wanted to find out what the direction of the board would be so that we can work on this.
Sounds good to me.
There's a couple different ways you can do it. You could do it at the dais. You could do it, submit your corrections, additions, and we could recycle it, send it back out for comments. So it's kind of a preview of the board, however you guys want to handle it.
Mr. Carver.
I'll just give you my 2 cents since you brought in paragraph 3, if we were to just remove everything after the word reductions through the word decade, I think that would, I don't see any reason to reinvent the wheel, but I do think that we probably need to make that adjustment based on the last few years' worth of participation from the state.
Just out of curiosity, do we have to sign individually, or it just goes out like this?
Vice President Fisher, it is not signed by anybody, but, and just maybe a point of noting, all pro and con statements from individuals have to be notarized when they are submitted. This just merely gets submitted as the governing board. So it would require a majority vote of the quorum when the statement was considered by the board, but would not be signed by an individual.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
I would say that with what you just got from Mr. Carver, you could wordsmith something and then send it out, and we can.
Yeah, that way Ms. Paperman can also take a look at it if she
We can put it back in a
has
Friday
any
update.
questions, and then bring it back.
And then
to the
give
next.
us a proposed deadline that you definitely want it back by so you can incorporate our revisions.
Yeah, we don't want to push the state deadline. If we could help it, if we could get it done by the July meeting, best.
Oh, you mean like in 12 days? Okay.
Yeah, because we're just keeping the adjusted one, right, minus the.
Yeah, and you just need the vote, right, at the next meeting. You just provide something for the next meeting, and then any board member can suggest what is needed. Okay, preview item 7C, fiscal year 2024 insurance proceeds plan. Mr. Miglarino.
Vice President Fisher, members of the board, Dr. Finch, this is a routine item that will appear as part of the budget adoption at our July 11th board meeting. And because there's the potential for us to use insurance proceeds, we actually gain revenue from insurance proceeds when we have a claim that can be subrogation from another insurance company. So if somebody else was to, if we had a claim against another insurer, the proceeds are deposited into a separate account. And sometimes we get reimbursed from our insurer if they're making a claim against an insurer that has damaged us. In either of those cases, money is deposited in a separate account, so we do not lose budget capacity when we make the repair or adjustment to make ourselves whole. This just requires that we have a hearing on the insurance proceeds and that it is approved. And so we wanted to share it with you as a preview. We'll bring it back. These are estimations. The projected budget or the projected proceeds in the account being $43,000 at the beginning of the fiscal year. We're taking a guess at maybe $100,000 in claims. It'd be great if that would be zero, right? But that's probably unlikely. It's probably going to be somewhere between $0 and $100,000. My prediction. So I would take the under on the $100,000 if for those that are into games of chance. But then that would give us up to $143,000 of revenue or proceeds to be able to spend on making repairs. And again, this is just a routine item that we do annually.
Any questions? Mr. Carver? No? Okay. We'll move on to governing board reports. Ms. Ordway.
Jim, did you want to do another report?
Jim, would you like to give a governing board report? We're a short one.
Well, thank everyone for being here. And gosh, there's somebody new back there. What's your name again? Can you say that out loud? Dr. DeMarteau sitting in the back. I just had to say your name. I love it. Not easier to spell than Tunis that I have learned how to spell. Now I need something new. So as we continually follow that strategic plan that everybody works on, I believe that will ensure our improvement, which helps keep our district moving in the positive direction that it has been for years. I believe the opportunities and the access to the resources, programs, and educational experiences continue to multiply and equip our students to become as successful as they can be. So I appreciate all the hard work with creating the strategic plan, but even more by implementing the strategies in the strategic plan. When you have a system as big as ours and you have the goals for crossing guard up to the board superintendent and everybody in between moving in the same direction, that's why we can be as successful as we can be. I think that the relationships that we have amongst each other is a model by leading by example for our students when they watch us. I had today, and I have my internet fixed, and in walks this young man, and he's fixing it, and he says, "Hey, Mrs. Ordway." I'm like, "Hey, look at you, it's Dylan Weeks." Went to New River before there were actual buildings, when we had skunks living underneath the portables, and his wife is a counselor over at Diamond Canyon. His kids go to Diamond Canyon, and it's just like, he just remembered everything. So the relationships that we build here off the dais and when we're in buildings and facilities, it follows. So I'm just telling you, relationships and leading with heart and humility are very important. So I think as we embark on the next school year, I hate to say that because that means summer's over, if we continue to work on respect, collaboration, work with factual information, data, and we make those decisions based on that, and we have targeted solutions and outcomes, then we're just going to be unstoppable. And if we're unstoppable, when I say that, I mean our students are unstoppable. So get all the rest you can before we start the next cycle, so to speak, and I look forward to not seeing everyone until July 11th. Have a good evening.
Ms. Semichek?
I just wanted to thank I know last Friday was the wrap up for most of our Jumpstart and summer learning programs, summer schools for our students. So I just wanted to once again thank our teachers and staff for taking the time to support our students through the continued learning over the summer. ESY will go through next week. In my last boarding, speaking of ESY, I mentioned Pepper, the therapy dog, and this week I had the opportunity to actually go and meet Pepper and her owner Amber and tour Vista Peak and kind of be a part of what Pepper does for the students. And so yeah, we toured Vista Peak. We saw so many wonderful students and the impact that she has on them. She brings up she's extremely calm, so she brings the kids, just they get to pet her and kind of if they're having a moment they can get calmed down or just enjoy petting her with the different brushes, and some just want to talk to her from a distance, and but she's there and she's supportive, and it's really neat. And not only I think Pepper supports those students at Vista Peak, but she also supports the staff because the staff adore her. She's there during the regular school year, so she's there 2 times a week during ESY, and then she's there every Wednesday once the regular school schedule goes into place. So I would love to see this this dog and this type of therapy for our students kind of implemented in other Deer Valley schools that we have that we think that our students might benefit from. So that's something I kind of took away after talking with Amber, her owner, what we can do to kind of grow this. And then Friday, I attended the Adams Family performance at the O'Connor High School with my daughter and our neighbor friend. And then this was the result of one of the fantastic summer camps that we had, Theater Rocks. And the cool thing about it that I thought was that it had all 5 of our high schools coming together to do one performance. And that included lighting, costumes, choreography, the roles themselves, just everything. And they also involved a lot of our middle school students. So that was pretty exciting. They got kind of a taste. I think the middle school students got kind of a taste for what they could look forward to if they wanted to do theater when they get to high school. So that was really fun. And I think that is about all I have right now. So thank you.
Mr. Carver. I just want to echo Ms. Ordway's statements about the having a heart full of service and a mind for humility, and everyone that's listening and everybody that's here. The things that we do, the jobs that we perform, are all for the sake of the community and the children. And I commend everybody for your willingness to be patient, not only with the children, but for at least 5 or 6 of us up here when we're asking questions and endeavoring to try to learn more and understand better so that we can communicate to the community the things that the professionals feel that we need to do, and how we can merge that and work that best with what the community wants to see and what the community wants to have done. I just always want to take every opportunity I can to thank each and every one of you for your tireless service and your seemingly endless patience, especially with me. So I thank you for that. And that's all I've really got. I just hope everybody enjoys the rest of their summer, because here in a minute it's going to be very busy, I think would be the politically correct way to say that. So I just save up your energy and let's just make sure we're ready when the kids get here. Thank you for everything you do.
Well, I guess that leaves me. Thank you guys for sticking it out. The room's empty, summertime. I hope you are enjoying your Fridays off, your 410 schedule. What a lot of people don't realize is a lot of times when you're in administration, that getting that Friday off is really a day off, because you normally work 10 hours a day every day, all the other days. And so it's like really no change to the rest of your schedule, but all of a sudden you find yourself with, oh, I got a day off. I remember those days. was like, this is so cool. But so I hope you guys are enjoying them. It was one of my favorite things about being an administrator in a school district is the summers. Um, but watching the things that happen in our district, I'm often impressed and sometimes very pleased and sometimes very dismayed. Um, but up here, we have to have difficult conversations, even if people don't like them. And to that end, the Friday update, we received a lot of information about things that we had discussed in the past regarding employees with students. That was supposed to be an agenda item, and I'm going to again request that is an agenda item. The whole purpose of the background is just to kind of show where we were. And if there's anything missing, the board can discuss whether we need to make any additional changes or steps. It shouldn't be anything controversy. It's just controversial. It's just a matter of we have been questioned, are we doing things in the best interest of our students? And so, again, I make the request that we bring that item back. All that information we receive would be our background, and then take a look at it. If board members, I think it is, because it is a safety concern or a safety issue, it may be something that we can start in an executive session. I would leave it to Ms. Taylor to kind of review and see if that would fall in to an executive session. But I do think it should be a public conversation for transparency purposes. The other thing that is coming up, and I do want us to have a greater conversation, is regarding superintendent goals. And I have asked Ms. Paperman that we take a better look and before we just bring them forward. It's unfortunate. Information is provided in the Friday update that we can't talk about because it's not agendized. It's a Friday update. And so some of those items are going to have to be coming up. Besides that, like I said, I think things are going really good. I've heard some really positive things over our. Um, probably because my son still engages with people in ESY as an adult now. I don't know where he talks to them, or maybe he just talks to them at the gym. I know he saw some Deer Valley people at the gym. He goes to the gym 6 days a week, so. That good news comes through him all the time. And then I get contacted. Of course, hey, I saw Barry. And so I have heard a lot of good things, specifically regarding the ESY program, and of course regarding Mr. Ross Kelly. So thank you all for being here, and July 11th, I'm done. Dr. Finch.
Legislative session is all but finished. I think there's still one more thing there. Got the tug of war rope they're pulling on. I think it's related to municipalities and counties and taxation, so they're still working on that. I think everything else is put to bed, though. And maybe that will eventually be retired as well if they don't come to an agreement. I know they've had a couple different opportunities and are struggling with a solution that everyone can agree on. I want to also comment about the Theater Rocks program and draw emphasis again to the fact that all the high schools were involved. From my perspective, that's the best part. Nobody's a mountain lion, an eagle, a bulldog, a jaguar, a skyhawk. They are theater kids. That's priceless because when we take the final picture at the end, they're all sitting super close to each other, and they are very excited about what they just did together as a group, and that's why we're here. And it's super neat to experience it. I had told my wife about it because I'd watched a pre-program, I guess, and said, well, you need to see this. It's pretty phenomenal. And so I drug her out to it, and she loved it, and it was great. And anytime you have a chance to see our fine arts programs, we have some of the best in the state, from marching to marching band to orchestra to obviously all the vocal opportunities our kids have, and then throw in theater. That's what separates us from a lot of our competitors is our range. Deer Valley has such a range, Deer Valley Unified, and so that's a plus. And I'm sure you saw me on Twitter as well, or Instagram, or talking about it. The basketball tournament that happened at State Farm is a huge deal. That's a national tournament. It's called Section 7, happens every year, or been in recent years, I guess would be the better way to say it. All of our kids, both girls and boys teams participated, the ones that, and then the boys in particular had a qualifying round. And the note I wanted to add is all the kids did really well, and that gets a chance for them to play in front of coaches from around the country. And Deer Valley boys in particular had to qualify, and they blew through that tournament and trounced everyone and made it all the way to the finals during the regular tournament as well, and lost to a team from Utah. But played really, really well. Quite impressive. 8 of the kids are back from being a state runner-up last year, so looking forward to see where they end up. And again, Boulder Creek boys did well. Both the Goldwater kids did well. O'Connor did well, both teams. So it sets the bar for our kids to what they're looking forward to in the future. So that was pretty exciting. Yes, it is going to be PD time coming up here very soon. Training starting. School's right around the corner. TikTok. Once we jump over the 4th of July, the school's right over next door. So as administrators, we know the cadence of the summertime. And again, as I've mentioned too, with the superintendent goals, we've been talking about them for 3 months, and a lot of you have given me feedback, and that's how we got the rough draft. Sent that out last week. Continue to send me feedback. Continue to give me trails to go down. We're looking for alignment to the strategic plan. We're looking for data sources and things that will help push the district forward. So continue that process, and thank you for the feedback that many of you have already given us. So appreciate it. And last but not least, the rally is around the corner as well. And we've been working on that tirelessly as well. It should be a neat experience, and looking forward. It looks like all the board members will be able to make it as well. And so when we put all 4,000 of us at GCU, it's going to be quite the experience.
I have a question for you. Are there going to be rally towels?
No rally towels. Maybe a rally bottle of
Whatever.
water.
No rally towel.
That's it. Thank you.
Mr. Carver, can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
It's at 8:07.
I move that we adjourn the meeting at 8:07.
Second.
Future meetings are posted on the website. We are adjourned.